In the bustling heart of a city, a renowned CEO, famous for his immense wealth, sharp intellect, and sometimes ruthless demeanor, decided to host an event unlike any other. The hall was grand, adorned with crystal chandeliers, velvet curtains, and polished floors that reflected the bright lights above. Business leaders, executives, and innovators from across the country were invited, each hoping to impress the CEO and secure opportunities that could change their lives. Amid the grandeur, the CEO stood on a raised platform, his presence commanding silence. He held a small, enigmatic device in his hands and addressed the audience with a smug smile. "This," he said, "is a puzzle that has stumped the brightest minds in the world. Whoever can solve it will not only gain my respect but also a reward of $100 million. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some laughed nervously, while others whispered among themselves. His challenge was no ordinary test. The puzzle was complex, involving a series of intricate calculations, logical connections, and lateral thinking. While it seemed simple at first glance, anyone who underestimated it would quickly find themselves frustrated. The CEO's tone carried mockery. "I'm certain none of you have the mind for this. But go ahead, try if you dare," he said, scanning the crowd with a glance that could make even seasoned professionals doubt themselves. As he descended from the platform and mingled with the attendees, the atmosphere became electric. Everyone was aware of the stakes. The prize was unimaginable, but so was the pressure. The problem was designed to challenge not only intellect but also patience and creativity. Most attendees began calculating, scribbling, and discussing in frantic attempts to decode the mystery. Yet, despite all their knowledge, no one seemed to get even close. In this room full of brilliance and ego, the CEO's challenge appeared unbeatable. And while many focused on the reward and recognition, the real test was subtle, a test of humility, observation, and ingenuity. Little did anyone know that among them, someone who had no formal education in business or mathematics was about to change the course of the event entirely. While the audience was caught in a whirlwind of complicated calculations and heated debates, a young girl stood quietly at the back of the hall. She was the daughter of a maid working in the CEO's office, a woman who cleaned the glass walls, polished the floors, and served refreshments to the elite. The girl herself had grown up surrounded by the world of the wealthy, yet she had never been treated as an equal. People often overlooked her, assuming she was merely a bystander or someone's child with nothing remarkable to contribute. But the girl was far from ordinary. She had a mind that thrived on curiosity and observation. While her peers and the executives focused on complex theories, she noticed details others ignored, the slight patterns in the puzzle's setup, the inconsistencies that hinted at a simpler solution, and the logic that others complicated unnecessarily. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. She simply observed, analyzed, and quietly formulated her approach. Her intelligence was not born from formal schooling but from life experiences. Growing up in a household where resources were scarce, she learned to think creatively and efficiently. Every problem was an opportunity to innovate, and she had developed a patience that allowed her to see beyond the obvious. As she looked at the puzzle, she began to connect dots intuitively, seeing the solution as a story rather than a formula. While the CEO's challenge was intimidating, she approached it with calm determination. She didn't care about the prize or the attention. Her focus was solely on solving the problem, driven by curiosity and confidence in her own abilities. And in that moment, she became a quiet force in a room dominated by ego and intellect, ready to show the world that brilliance often hides in unexpected places. The executives, managers, and industry leaders continued to struggle with the CEO's puzzle. Their frustration grew with every failed attempt, and whispers of doubt filled the hall. "It's impossible," one executive muttered. "No one could solve this," said another. Even the CEO's face reflected a hint of satisfaction at the apparent futility of the task, enjoying the spectacle of his challenge confounding the so-called best minds in the room. Some attempted to overcomplicate the puzzle, adding layers of unnecessary theory or complex calculations. Others resorted to guessing, hoping that sheer persistence would yield results. But their arrogance blinded them to the obvious. They assumed that intelligence was measured by complexity, not clarity. Meanwhile, the young girl, standing quietly in her simple dress and unassuming demeanor, began to work. She didn't allow the mockery to distract her. She paid attention to the CEO's words, noticed small hints embedded in his instructions, and focused on the puzzle's structure rather than the overwhelming pressure. Where others saw chaos, she saw patterns. Where others saw difficulty, she saw opportunity. Her approach was methodical and calm, a sharp contrast to the flustered, stressed, and often panicked adults around her. She knew that the solution lay not in trying to impress or overthink but in observing carefully and trusting her intuition. The more others doubted, the more focused she became, proving that confidence and clarity often triumph over arrogance and noise. After several tense minutes, the girl's intuition and careful observation led her to an answer, a solution so simple and elegant that it had eluded even the most educated minds in the room. She didn't rely on complicated formulas or advanced calculations. Instead, she applied logic, creativity, and a fresh perspective, noticing patterns the others had ignored. When she presented her solution to the CEO, the room fell silent. The CEO, expecting another failed attempt, was visibly shocked. He examined her answer, checking and rechecking, yet it was correct. The brilliance of her solution was not only in its accuracy but in its clarity. It highlighted how often people overcomplicate problems, looking for solutions that weren't necessary, while the simplest approach was always the most effective. Her confidence and composure amazed the audience. She explained her reasoning clearly, showing step by step how she arrived at the solution. Each point was logical, precise, and easy to follow. Her answer demonstrated a rare blend of creativity, intelligence, and practicality, qualities that the CEO had always admired in his top executives but had rarely seen displayed with such poise by someone from an ordinary background. The CEO, a man who had witnessed countless successes and failures, could hardly believe his eyes. Not only had a young girl, the daughter of his maid, solved the puzzle, but she had done so effortlessly while the room full of experts had failed. The audience erupted in astonished applause, unable to contain their admiration. Executives and professionals who had once looked down upon her now gazed in disbelief, realizing that talent can come from the most unexpected places. The CEO himself had to acknowledge a truth he had long ignored: brilliance is not limited to privilege, education, or social status. It is often the combination of observation, intuition, and courage to think differently that produces extraordinary results. In that moment, the maid's daughter became a symbol of hope and inspiration. Her achievement reminded everyone present that intelligence is universal and that opportunities should not be restricted by social hierarchy. The lesson was clear: genius can emerge from any corner of society, regardless of background or upbringing. True to his word, the CEO handed over the $100 million reward. But more than the money, he offered her mentorship, opportunities, and recognition in the corporate world. Her life transformed overnight. From a girl who once went unnoticed in the shadows of privilege, she became a celebrated figure, inspiring millions. Her story traveled far beyond the walls of that hall. It became a symbol of hope, courage, and the power of determination. People realized that success is not merely about status or wealth but about observation, creativity, and perseverance. The young girl's life, once limited by societal expectations, now held infinite possibilities. Through her actions, she proved that intelligence and talent are not confined by social class, and that the world benefits most when opportunity meets potential. The CEO, humbled and enlightened, learned a valuable lesson as well: sometimes the most extraordinary solutions come from the most ordinary people.